Welcome back to Mr. Wicklam's Virtual Math Classroom. Today what we're going to be talking about is comparing and ordering numbers in our number sense unit. Today what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be taking a look at numbers, and what we're going to do is we're going to compare them and we're going to put them in order from least to greatest, or we're going to decide which one is greater. So just as a little bit of a review for us as we move on, what we want to do is we want to review the value of the digits. So remember, not what place value it's in, so not ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, but we're actually looking for the number value of these digits. So if we take a look here and we look at the 3, its value is 3. Okay, the value of the 7, because it's in the tens spot, so 7 times 10 would give us a value of 70. We have the 2, which is in the hundreds spot, 2 times 100, or just 2 hundreds, because you can even just say it and you can hear what the value is, 2 hundreds. And in the thousands spot, we have 4 thousands. Okay, so now we've wrote the value for the first one. We're going to again write the value for the next one. So we're in the 1 spot, 4, the 10 spot, 70, right? Because we're taking a look. 7 tens. 7 tens is 70. Okay, 3 hundreds and 4 thousands. Now, if I asked you to take a look at these two numbers, and I asked you to tell me which one was bigger, which one would you pick? You would pick the one on the left, which is what I would assume you would do. And why would you pick the one on the left? And if you're ever stuck, always start with the ones digit. Well, the ones digits are off, so that means that this one's fairly bigger right off the hop, but let's keep going, because as the number gets bigger, right, the value gets bigger. So we don't know right off the hop that just because of the 1 spot that this is a bigger number. So let's look at the tens. They're the same. The telltale sign is going to come down to the hundreds or the thousands. So hundreds, this one's bigger, and thousands, they're the same. Now, because the hundreds is bigger here than it is here, and the thousands remain the same, therefore this number on the left is definitely the bigger number. So what we're going to be doing is we're just going to take a look and we're going to figure out why and how, because we can't just look at a number and assume it's bigger, because some of us just can't do that. So we need to know a method of how to figure this out. So if we look at these two numbers that we have here, 352 and 452, what we want to know is we want to know which number is bigger. How can we know? How can we know that this number is bigger without just looking at the two and deciding that it's bigger? Well, we can expand it. So we've been working with expanded form, writing and doing addition equations. So let's expand it out. So you have 300 plus 50, 300s, 50 plus 2. So we have 400s plus 50 plus 2. What we can do is we can just go over and we can clearly take a look. Ones, same. Tens, same. The hundreds here is bigger. So if the hundreds are bigger, that is the biggest number that we possibly have as far as place value goes, then therefore 452 is definitely bigger than 352. Now, most of you are going to be able to tell this right away, but I'm just giving you a little background knowledge as to how to find that out, so we can always expand. Now, let's take a look at these two numbers right here. So we have these two numbers. What we want to do is we want to circle the numbers that are different. Circle the numbers that are different. Always start with the ones, and then what we want to do is we want to know, and we want to write down, or just circle in general, which number is the biggest number. We're just going to write it down. So let's take a look. Let's start at the ones. Same. Tens. This is bigger, so let's hold on to that for a moment. Let's look at the hundreds. They're the same. Look at the thousands. They're the same. You look at the 10,000s and they're the same. So because the 10's place value here. The 6 is bigger than the 5. We're going to circle that because those are the different numbers. And which number is bigger? Well, because the 6 is more than the 5, 94,762 is the bigger number. Okay? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at, and you guys have probably heard about me talk about Pac-Man before. And Pac-Man he just looks something like this. He's got his eye right there, right? Because Pac-Man likes to eat more. Pac-Man always wants to eat more. So we're going to be looking at greater than or less than, and we use the unequal sign, which is this. That is the unequal sign right here. And now what I always do is I use it as Pac-Man, because what we like to do is Pac-Man always likes to eat more. So we always want to put the mouth, so to speak, toward the bigger number. Okay, because Pac-Man always likes more. So let's take a look at these two numbers right here. Let's take a look at which numbers are different, and then what we can do is we can assign the unequal sign, or what we can do is we can tell which number is greater than or less than. So let's start at the ones. So we're starting at the ones. We have a 1, we have a 2. Okay, let's just hold on to that for a second. So right now we know that this number is a little bit bigger. Let's move over to the tens. We got ones. Move over to the hundreds. We have ones. Thousands. We have fours. And 10,000s. We have 9. So Pac-Man always likes more. So his mouth always wants to eat more. So then, therefore, what we would do is we would say that 94,112 is greater than 94,111. Okay, so we're going to do that again. We're going to do that again for this sequence of numbers right here. So again, always start with the ones. So we start with the ones. So looks like this one's bigger, but we need to move on. Okay, we can't just rely solely on the ones, because the ones is the smallest. So we move over. So this is bigger for tens. This one's got the bigger hundreds number. So with the bigger hundreds number, because 1, 10, hundreds, that means that this one is pulled into the lead because it's bigger. Even though these two numbers were bigger down here, the 100 trumps it. So we got the hundreds number bigger, the thousands are the same. So if I were to ask you, of these two numbers, which one is the greater number, and you said the left, you would be correct. So therefore 8,653 is greater than 8,486. The 100, as we get bigger, right, as we move from the left to the right, the number gets larger, and so therefore that's why the hundreds trumps the other numbers. Now if I were to ask you to fill in the squares, I want you to make this statement true. So therefore, when we're talking about making this statement true, what we're saying is that this number right here is going to be greater than this number. So how can we make this number right here greater than this number over here? Is that possible? Can we do that? That's what I want to know. Let's see what we can figure out with this. So, you know, if we put a number in here, and let's say it's 91, can we make this statement true? Is it possible to make this statement true? We can't write 0 for 100, can we? So can this statement be true? Well, we can't write 0 in the 100 spot, so therefore this statement cannot be true. If we wanted to flip this around and say that this, so we got 121 is greater than 91, that's not a problem. But we cannot write 0 at the beginning of a number. That just can't happen. So therefore that is why that statement can't be true. I want you to remember that as we keep going along here, okay? Now we're gonna kind of switch gears here, and we're going to take a look at base 10 models. And when we take a look at the base 10 models, what we're going to be doing is we're going to look at it, and I want you to tell me write out the number and then tell me which one is the greater number, or what we're going to do is circle the greatest number. So we take a look at our base 10 models. We have 1 square, 2 squares. The squares, if you remember, squares equal 100, little columns equal 10, the little squares equal 1, and then there is the cubes that equal 1000. I apologize for my artistry. So we have 2, and how many ones? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 224. So we have 2, and 1, 2, 3 ones. Okay, so when we take a look, this is bigger on the one side, equal. So whichever one has a bigger number, and where the rest are equal, then therefore this has to be the greater number. Okay, because it does have more in it, especially in the ones. It's got one more one. Okay, what we're going to be doing, guys, everything that I'm doing here, everything that I'm showing you is all coming from your book. So this is all the stuff that you're going to see in your book, and that you're going to need to know how to do. Okay, what we're going to be looking at is we're going to look at a number, and it's 32,649. What we want to know is, can we make a greater number out of this? Can we make a greater number out of this? Well, let's look for any numbers that are bigger than 3 as a starter. So we have 6, 4, and 9. Well, which one is the biggest? Let's put it first. Biggest number is 9. Which one is the next biggest? So we have 4, 6, 3, and 2, 6. Which is the next one after the 6? 4. Next biggest would be 3. And the next last one would be 2. So that is the greatest number we can make out of these digits right here. What is the least number we can make? Well, if we wanted to start this with the biggest number, what do you think we want to start this with if we're looking for the smallest, the least number? Well, we're going to want to start with the smallest number in these 5 digits. What is the smallest number in these 5 digits? It is the 2. So let's start with the 2. What's the next biggest than 2? It's 3, 4, 6, 9. That is the least number that we can make with these digits, which is basically just the inverse of this number. It's taking it, just flipping it around and making it backwards. It said, what's a number that we can put in between? Well, as long as it doesn't start with a 2 or a 9, it's going to be in between. So we can pick any number to start with. So let's just pick 4. It's in between 2 and 9. So therefore, and then just list the rest of the digits, because it's going to be in between because it starts with the 4. So let's just randomly put numbers: 4, 2, 3, 9, 6, because that's in between both of those numbers. Now, what you're also going to see is it's going to say use the digits 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 to create a number greater than 30,000 and less than 34,000. So how can we use these numbers to create a number greater than 30,000 but less than 34,000? The trick is that we'll start with 3. We have to, because each of these numbers starts with a 3. Let's look at the second number. So it's got to be between 0 and 4. It's got to be between 0 and 4. So greater than 30, less than 34. What's the number between 0 and 4? Well, let's pick 2. Now the rest of the numbers can just be filled in, because we know we're in between there. So we can fill it in. So we can go 4, 1, 0. Because we know that it needed to be a 3. It needed to be between 0 and 4, and the rest of the numbers are just zeros. Okay? So we just needed to get a number in between. Basically 30 and 34. 32 is in between 30 and 34. Last but not least, which digit fits? So 28,000 blank 64 is between, and you got to read this whole thing, 28,458, which is small, 28,763. So my advice to you would be to use a number that is between 4 and 7. Use a number between 4 and 7. So if we use 4, it's going to be, it would be fine in this case, but it's not always going to be a case. So use a number between 4 and 7. What numbers do we have? 5 and 6. So let's use a number 5 or 6. Okay, so let's put 5 in there. 28,564 is in between these two numbers. Okay, your pages are up on the board. If you have any questions, you may ask me. This is Mr. Wicklum signing off.